Hello and welcome to another episode of me reacting to fan-made cards I found online. And once again, I didn't find these cards online, they were sent to me by Vincent Thurilet. It's someone who already made a set of cards that I reviewed in an earlier episode. And he sent me another set of cards, and they are really interesting, so I happily obliged to take a look at them again. And we start off the episode with Consolation Price. This one costs 5 MC. It immediately draws two cards, which is, if you compare it to, for example, Tech Demo, that one costs 5 MC as well and draws you two cards and has no ongoing effect. But of course, that card has a lot of combo potential with a science tech and being a space event. So you can pay for it with titanium, it has space discounts, it has event rebates, and it has all the science combo potential of Valley Trust, Mars U, Olympus Conference, and so on. So Consolation Price has none of that. Instead, it has an ongoing effect, which basically says when an opponent gets a placement bonus, no matter what, even though there's only titanium and plants on here, but when an opponent gets a placement bonus, you get 1 MC. This is really interesting because card draw, if you have enough cards throughout the game, you want to play card draw late, but sometimes you run out of cards and you want to play it early. This effect up here, you want to get as early, you want to get down as early as possible. Jesus Christ, that was difficult. And I think it's a really strong effect because if you think about it, in a 1v1, your opponent is placing anything between like 0 and, let's say, 15 tiles. In a three-player game, there's already not a low probability that like 2/4 of the map, 2/3 of the map will be filled out. Even maybe filling out the map completely. And a good chunk of the map has placement bonuses. Like most of the oceans have placement bonuses. And if you think about on Tharsis, like the whole equator region has placement bonuses. There's mineral placement bonuses up north, down south, and there's some card placement bonuses as well. And these are the spots where you want to place tiles. Obviously, if you yourself go for a ground game, you block some of the placement bonuses that your opponents could get. But at the same time, if you play this and go for a ground game at the same time, you're basically happy either way. Either you take the good placement bonuses yourself or your opponents do, and you get 1 MC off of it. Like, not a huge effect, but it will pay back definitely. And because it also draws two cards, I think this card is really strong. If you get this early on, probably even too strong. I think you could like make it so that this draws only one card or just gives you a VP or something. I like that it has 0 tags because first of all, as a card, I think this fits lore-wise. It's not a building or anything. It's just like a consolation prize in a lottery. And I also think there should be more strong cards with no tags. To counterbalance the fact that cards with no tags have little combo potential. So I think this card is creative, but a little bit too strong. Next up, we have Energy Regulatory Commission. And I really like this one because, again, it's something that we don't have that much of. It's a power tech that doesn't just give you power prod. And at the same time, it's quite strong, in my opinion. This costs 8 MC. There's an earth tech and a power tech, and it gives a lot of combo potential to power techs because not only do you get basically a power tech multiplier, like a Jovian multiplier just for power techs and not as strong because every 2 power techs will give you 1 point. You also get, every time you play a power tech, including this one, you get 1 MC prod. So if you think about it, this card triggers itself. Every MC prod that you get is worth 4.5 MC, and every half point that you get is 2.5 MC. So together that's 7 MC worth in value, because 1 point is 5 MC because of dust seals, and 2 MC prod is 9 MC because of sponsors. So if you do the math, every power tag basically gives you 7 MC extra worth in value. This card costs 10, gives you 7 MC worth in value immediately. And with each power tag that you play after this, you get 7 MC extra in value. So this card pays back really quickly. I think you could make this a little bit more expensive, but I still want this to remain strong because I want some strong combo potential for power tags so that there's a reason to play them. Especially if you're not playing with colonies. Colonies increases the value of power prod heavily, and the best way to get power prod is through power tags. But especially without that expansion, I think the power tag itself is quite weak, and a card like Energy Regulatory Commission could make it much stronger. And yeah, I think this is a really good idea, but maybe again a little bit too strong. And again, a really cool idea, but I think too strong, is Ozone Space Cannon. This costs 14. You need to be at 4% oxygen or higher. It has a space tag, and it allows you to spend 2 energy to decrease the oxygen track, but you still gain a TR, and you're allowed to remove up to 1 plant and 1 animal from any player. This is, I think, absolutely busted. First of all, it only works if oxygen is not maxed out, so you cannot, in the last gen, when the game is already finished, stall everyone out, then play Ozone Space Cannon, lower the oxygen track 1 step, and prevent the game from ending. That would be completely busted. But even this way, I think it's busted, because this is one of the best cards, maybe the best card to get if you're an engine player who needs more time. Because increasing the oxygen is incredibly costly. The standard project to increase the oxygen is the most expensive one. And plant prod is more expensive than heat prod as well. There's a lot of steps on the oxygen track, more steps on the oxygen track than oceans. So increasing the oxygen is costly, and just being able to spend energy to stall out the game, basically, remove oxygen off of the track, is really, really strong, especially for engine players, as I said. Once again, engine players, because of quantum, because of mass converter, because of Corona extractor, and just the ability to play cards more cheaply with like global discounts, they will probably have power prod lying around and have nothing to do with it. They might not want to increase the heat. They might not want to increase the temperature with their power prod turned into heat because they don't want to push the game to end. And instead, they can use their power to trade. They can use it for stuff like Physics Complex or drawing cards with Development Center. But they can also use it, and that's much better, for Ozone Space Cannon. So just compare this, for example, to Equatorial Magnetizer, where you need to trade 1 power prod, which is much more value, for just 1 TR. And here, you also get to lower the oxygen, which is great if you're an engine player. Of course, this card is absolutely trash if you're going for a rush because you want to end the game and you don't want to lower the oxygen. But let's just think about this being in an engine setup. You not only get a TR, you also lower the oxygen, and then you get to destroy plants and animals. This is a lot of value, and it's way too strong for engine, I feel like. I think this is too strong, and I think you shouldn't have a continuous way to decrease a global parameter. It's just too frustrating for the other players, especially in 2P, when the rush players are already fighting against the clock. They are already scrambling everything they have together to get the oxygen track and the temperature track and the ocean track to be maxed out. Ozone Space Cannon on its own can just stall the game out for too long. I think it's too strong. But I think the concept is really cool. I just think it doesn't really work. Urban Development Plan is the next one, and this one is also interesting because it's a city tech that doesn't let you place a city. It also combos with the city tech heavily. So again, it makes a previously quite useless tech like Energy Regulatory Commission with the power tech. It makes a pretty useless tech quite strong because the city tech has absolutely no combo potential. If you think about it, every freaking card in the game, basically, that combos with cities, combos with the city tiles, not with the tags. Pets, for example, gives you a pet when a city is placed, not when a city tag is played. Rover construction, Tharsis, immigrant city, all of those work with city tiles, not with city tags. An urban development plan is different. It doesn't make much of a difference because both of these effects don't work with wild tags. And as I said, there's not a lot of cards that have city tags and don't let you place a city. I think there's only like that new Prelude Corp, and I don't know if there's more. I need to check. But when you play a city tag, you pay 3 MC less for it. That's nice, but a lot of city tags are really expensive. And again, this doesn't work on wild tags. And it also is basically a multiplier for city tags. And because this is a multiplier that is evaluated after the game, so it's not an action, it works the same as Jovian multipliers and it doesn't count wild tags. It costs 13 MC and it can only be played with a maximum of 3 cities in play. I think this is honestly fine. You won't have that many city tiles, city tags in play. City tags are expensive, so the 3 MC discount is strong, but it's not game breaking. Like something like Earth Office, which also gives you a 3 MC discount. There's a lot of Earth tags which are really cheap, and making them 3 MC cheaper is just in percentage wise, it's just a stronger decrease in price. And if you play something like Capital or Open City, a 3 MC discount is nice, but it's not that impactful. The 1 extra point is great. The card itself immediately grants you 1 point. But I think this is much weaker than, for example, Energy Regulatory Commission. Because this you can play really early on, and it's basically a development card. It almost pays for itself immediately. And this doesn't. It's quite expensive. It doesn't give you immediate development. Sure, it gives you the discount, but if you don't have a city tag to follow it up with, it's not that useful. But you can keep it on hand to play once you have a city tile tag to follow it up with. You just need to be careful with the max requirement because it only relies on your own city tags. So you are not missing out on city placement by your opponents like you do with robo construction or pets that you want to get down early, but that also don't give you immediate development. They need to be followed up with something. So it's easier to combo. But I like it. I think this one is balanced. I think you could just put this into the game, and it's a great idea to make the city tech a bit better. Damn, it's hard to keep track of between tech and tile. But let's get to the next card. Pet Store. So starting from this card, I haven't looked at them before. This costs 12 MC, requires a city tile. Again, this is not a city tag. And then an animal tag. It comes with a building tag and an animal tag. Has a point on it. It lets you add 2 animals to another card. So this could be a 3-point card if you have a 1-point animal down, which is quite strong because 3 points, think about, for example, advanced ecosystems, which has a harder requirement, I would say, that grants 3 points for basically the same price, just 1 MC cheaper. But this gives you an ongoing action. Of course, on advanced ecosystems, the tags are better. But this can be paid for with steel, which is also great. And this action allows you to pay 1 MC to add 1 animal to another card. Much stronger ability than bioprinting facility, for example. But with bioprinting facility, you at least get the option to take plants instead of the animal. So it's a bit more flexible. You can play it earlier on, get some plants going, and then once you have an animal down, take the animal instead. With Pet Store, it is useless until you have an animal card down. But if you get an early animal card like pets, then play Pet Store, start putting the animals on pets, and then switch to a 1-point animal later down the road. That would be pretty great. I think this card is really strong. I think it's it could also be an amazing combo card for like Martian Zoo. Get that going really fast, make a lot of money with that. And what I also like, and this is especially relevant if you're playing with all expansions, it's a building tech. And it's a building tech that is useful to play in the mid to late game, which there aren't a lot of, especially in the expansions. It's a great point card. I think this is great. It's quite strong, I think, I feel like. Obviously, it relies on you drawing a specific card, namely another animal card, because on its own, it's quite bad. Just a point for 12 MC is not great. But I like it. I really like it. I would need to playtest to see if it's too strong. I feel like it could be, but it's a great building tech for the late game. Next up, Coastal Forest. I like the design of this one. It costs 12 MC. Oh, it requires +6 Celsius. So this is the highest requirement card on the temperature track. Farming and mangrove are at +4. Comes with a plant tag. Place 1 greenery tile next to an ocean. Raise oxygen 1 step, gain 2 plants. Okay, this is obviously worse than mangrove, which is not bad because mangrove is pretty strong. It's like an A-tier card. So this is definitely worse because mangrove costs the same, has a 1 MC, 1 temperature lower requirement, and comes with an extra point, which is at that stage in the game better than 2 plants. Also, you get to place mangrove on an ocean tile, which in the late game, which is when you will need to play this, is great because you are guaranteed to be able to place mangrove because there's 9 oceans and for 12 ocean tiles. That means 3 empty ocean tiles are left, and those are reserved for protected valley, moorhole area, and mangrove. So there's always enough room to play mangrove. And it's very possible that in the late game there's not enough room to play coastal forest. Because the spots next to oceans are premium real estate. You want to get your tiles down there in the early to mid game to perform an ocean walk, for example. And then it's very possible that there's not any spots left that you can place this on. What I think is quite nice about this card is that it allows you to freely place a greenery, but in the late game that's also not too relevant because it has a requirement where you can place it. It shouldn't be restricted to being placed next to one of your own tiles, which is normally what you need to do with greeneries. So this could be a teleportation tile, but in the super late game at 6 degrees Celsius, you shouldn't rely on teleportation tiles anymore. You should have like greeneries down or whatever, or cities in good spots, and there's probably not the likelihood that you're blocked in by opponents' cities or that you want to collect better placement bonuses somewhere else is quite low, so the value of this being a teleportation tile is not too high. So I think this is an okay card, not too strong, weaker than mangrove in my opinion. But that's not bad because not every card needs to be S tier. I think this is okay. This could be added to the game, and I like the look of it. Reminds me of Vacation in Italy. All right, Forest Settlement. Again, I like the look of this. It costs 10 MC. It requires 6 city in play. Oh wow, okay, this is difficult. 6 cities might not even happen in 2P, so quite high requirement card, so it needs to be strong. So it has a city tech and a building tech. That's a trusted combo. Gets your point. It removes 2 of your plants, so like potatoes, you cannot play this if you don't have at least 2 plants. And contrast to potatoes, you cannot play it at 1 plant if you have Viro enhancers, because this doesn't have a green tag. Place a city tile on one of your greenery tiles, disregarding any city placement rules. Both these city and greenery tiles count as such. So you basically have a city and a greenery tile in the same spot. That's amazing. That's an amazing ability. That's really, really strong. I understand why this has such a high requirement. The question I have is, should this have a high requirement or should this have a high cost? Because if your opponent doesn't know you have this on hand, he might just place cities. You don't even have to place all of the cities that you need for this. And when you can play this for 10 MC, it's probably quite insane. It can score a lot of points, especially because the greenery still counts as such. You can use it to punish opponents that place cities around your own greeneries, although you don't punish them that much because the greenery still counts as a greenery, but you can steal some of the points back, basically. Maybe what I think this card should require is, it should require that you have a specific amount of cities in play, such that you yourself have to work towards the requirement of this card and your opponent can't unknowingly help you. And it should be a bit more expensive. Maybe it should require like 3 cities in play and cost 15 instead of 6. 3 of your cities in play and cost 15, and instead of requiring 6 in play total and costing 10. I think that would maybe make it a bit more balanced, because I think in the state it is right now, it is quite strong. But again, it's something I would probably need to play test. How often do we get into scenarios where this can score like 3 or 4 extra points through the placement plus the 1 point it's got? Because if you score 3 or 4 points through the placement plus the 1 point it got, that's 4 to 5 points for a card that costs 10 plus 3, and then you can pay for with steal, and that you can freely place in the late game. So quite strong, in my opinion, in the right scenario. I would need to see how often that scenario happens, and my suggestion is change this to a requirement that's obviously lower, but still quite high, and requires you to place cities, and make it a bit more expensive. But I would need to see. Next up, latest generation power plant. Costs 22. Power and building tech. Trusted combo as well. Grants 2 points. Okay. And decreases your MC prod by 2, increases your power prod by 4. So this is like nuclear power on crack. I think with this card, we can just add everything together, add all the values together and see if it works out. So the -2 is basically, we will add just 9 MC more to the cost of the card, because 2 MC prod is worth 9 MC. So this costs 31 plus 3, so 34. Let me just keep track of this. So the cost is 34. Then we have 2 MC, which is worth 10, at 2 points, which is worth 10 MC. And we have 4 power. Each power is worth 7, so this is worth 28. So basically, the card costs you 34 MC, and it grants value worth 38. So it's 4 MC cheaper than the value of what it grants, but with a card this expensive, I think that's fine. Expensive cards are harder to play. You will need to sacrifice a lot to get this down Gen 1. Possibly like skipping cards in the research phase. And that's why you should probably, you can't incrementally play this as you can with like cheaper cards. If you don't have enough money to play 4 cheap cards, you can play 2 or 3 of them in one gen and the other one the gen afterwards, which means that you get the development of the 2 or 3 cards one gen earlier. With an expensive card like latest generation power plant, you can either play it or don't play it. And if you can't play it because of its high cost, you're missing out on one whole gen of production. Problem with this card that I see is that it's a pretty hefty mix between development and points and negative development. Points and negative development you want to get down as late as possible because you don't want to pay for points early on, and negative development obviously you don't want to have early on. And then development, the power prod that you get, you want to play as early as possible because you want to benefit from the power prod. And that probably makes this card quite awkward to play in the early game. But again, the 4MC discount that you basically get on the value of this card probably helps with that. It's quite nice in like if you're playing with colonies because it instantly allows you to trade in Gen 2 and gives you even one more power prod to maybe play a power hungry card or something like Death Center, or ensure you against tapping, which is often really hard to get in colonies because everybody wants the power prod. So it's really hard to get extra power prod for more than trading. Obviously nice for Thorgate. And if you have a bumper, you could play this Gen 1 and then the bumper Gen 2. Really easy way to get to 4 power prod, but also really expensive. I think this card is fine as it is. I think you can add it into the game. I also like that it's, again, a strong power tag that does a bit more than just grant power prod. Also grants 2 points. I like it. Add this into the game. I'm fine with it. Okay, another card that allows you to decrease a global parameter, which is Desiccation. 2MC cost event card, requires that the ocean parameter is not maxed out. Again, this is a good idea to make it like that, so you can't undo or unfinish the game basically if everybody has passed in the last gen and you just whip out the Desiccation, remove the last ocean, and the game goes on for one more gen and nobody thought about that and maybe even sold all of their cards. That would lead to a few table flips. But this card requires that the ocean parameter is not maxed out. Remove 1 ocean tile and up to 2 plants or 1 animal from any player. Honestly, I think this card is fine because this is not a continuous way to stall out the game. So it doesn't allow an engine player to make the lives of the rush players too difficult. It's impactful, but it doesn't also score points on its own. Just the negative points that could happen if you remove animals or plants. I think this is fine. Maybe too cheap. I would really need to play test this to see how often as an engine player I would like to play this. Probably as an engine player, if you have global discounts and media group down, this is always a no-brainer. Also, like as a mid-range player, and you're just up against another mid-range player, you draw this for free at some point. You just play it for 2 MC, which is really cheap. Destroy a few plants, open up a good ocean spot. Like, just think about Hellas opening up in the big ocean, the middle spot, removing that ocean in the late game, and then being able to immediately follow that up with another ocean placement there to get a huge MC rebate. That would be juicy as hell. That would be really great. Also, cool idea here is to flip a state dealer with this card, especially if someone has played like Artificial Lake. Remove that Artificial Lake and place the ocean somewhere completely else to flip a state dealer. Really cool idea. Or combo it with Lakefront Resorts, get 1 more MC prod out of it. That's quite interesting. So I think this card is super interesting. I think it's better balanced than the Ozone Space Cannon, but I think it probably is still quite strong. I really would need to play test this, but I like the idea. It's really cool. And then lastly, we have scrap metal trading, which is an event for 6MC. And it says exchange any number of steel and titanium for money at their current values -1. So is each resource discounted by 1? So you exchange 4 steel and you get 4 MC because each steel is discounted by 1? Or do you get, like, if you exchange 4 steel, that's worth 8 -1, 7? That would be a huge difference. I would read this like every resource is discounted by 1. And then I think this is only good if you have made some huge mistakes, because this already costs you 9 MC without any combo potential, and if you don't draw this for free, and you're basically losing money. So you should only do this if you have tons and tons and tons of minerals and really nothing to do with it. There's no miner to be funded. Then you can do this in like the last gen and just exchange everything into MC and use the MC to play some more cards. But then again, it wasn't a great idea to play all of this mineral prod without card draw to get, like, probably without card draw to be able to draw cards that you can play with all of those minerals. So this is a card that only helps if you've done a huge mistake in your game, and even then it's probably quite hard to find scenarios in which this is great. I think you could make this cheaper. Of course, if this costs nothing to play, then yes, in the late game there will be a lot of situations in which you will probably do this, because you might have like 4 or 5 steel left over in the last gen, and just all of the game you found quite a few nice cards to play, but not in the last gen. You're just sitting on 4 or 5 steel, and if this costs 0 MC, then it's a no-brainer to play if miner isn't funded, or if it's not even in play. But at 6 MC, I think it's just too expensive. It's a really cool idea, especially because it's a losing trade. But it's a losing trade where you can imagine that at some point you want to do it. But I think it should be a slightly less losing trade, such that it is useful in more scenarios. But yeah, really cool idea. I really like it. But yeah, that was the last card of this set. Definitely let me know in the comments what you thought about these cards. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and please consider subscribing. It would really help me out. And yeah, I hope I see you in the next one. Have a good one, guys, and goodbye.